If you buy a business and you get it wrong, it's going to set you back 10 years financially.
There's like 30-something buyers for one business on sale right now.
People in the business community might assume that it's a buyer's market. The buyers hold all the cards. The irony is it's a seller's market. There's an undersupply of good businesses.
New Zealand is slowly coming out of a recession.
One thing seems to be booming.
Buying a business.
So are people actually buying businesses in this rough economy?
I've just had a client who sold out of pubs in the South Island and entered into that trades and services sector. He was at the dangerous side of policing, brought a great business in transport and logistics in a rural town in New Zealand. Vendors will go to 3 brokers and say, can you tell me what my business is worth? Promising a number is easy, but unless you can back it up with a robust process, you really have nothing. If it's just too consistent to be true, that's a major red flag. If the GP is 33.7% 3 years in a row, there's a bit of cut and paste.
Someone who tried to get their business sold, get it over the line, and they've done really dodgy things.
The first 6 months in business ownership, it's mission critical that a buyer gets off to a good start. The number one thing that I see people underestimate in buying a business is...
Today's episode is brought to you by AcademyEx, New Zealand's premier postgraduate institute for business owners and professionals. They're an absolute game changer for New Zealand business owners and professionals who are ready to stop talking about the next level and actually build the skills to get there. You can hit the link below or scan the QR code on your screen to learn more about AcademyEx. Mike, great to have you on the show. Welcome to Notes from the Executive.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for making time, and thank you for doing this. The conversation I was interested about having is it a good time to buy and sell a business? And I typically, when I say buy and sell a home, I'm so used to saying buying and selling a home. Like, no, it's buying and selling a business. Is it a good time now to buy and sell a business?
It always comes down to personal circumstances. From the vendor's side, there's never a perfect time to exit, but there's a big pool of buyers out there that are driving the market at the moment. So certainly from a vendor's side, great time to sell. From a buyer's side, we think there's upside in business, upside in most of the businesses you buy as we come out of a recession. Disposable income will increase. Things like the construction sector we expect will boom.
Okay, so I guess your answer is yes and no.
Yeah, it's.
Has there been any time that it's really bad to sell? Like, do not sell your business, and then you need to do this and this and this, and then wait for that to happen, and then sell the business.
100%. I always say to clients, I'm happy to sell your business now, but if you want to work on this, and this, and you want to sell it for a better price in 2 years' time, I'm all about that. There's always plenty of opportunities for me to sell. And it's about aligning with what the best outcome for the client is.
Is it true that there's like 30-something buyers for one business on sale right now?
I did see that stat recently, and I had a bit of a chuckle about it. Look, it's easy to look at averages, and it distorts things. You could have a work from home online marketing business, and it might get 200 inquiries, and then you might have a business that's an owner-operator tradie business that comes with no staff, and there might be 1 inquiry on it. So take that comment with a grain of salt.
Is there any solid stats out there that we could look at and trust? Because I tried to look for stuff online, and there's really nothing official. Like, I found your competitors' stats on what's happening. Yeah. But in terms of like a body, like whoever is sorting you guys out, making sure everyone is doing what they're supposed to, what are the stats right now with buying and selling in the last maybe quarter or maybe 6 months, 2 quarters?
Yeah, it's a fair comment you've picked up on. I mean, the stats for our industry have been historically very, very archaic. A young, innovative businessman about 12, 18 months ago picked up the rights to a business called BizStats, and he provides the stats to our industry. He's done a great job of taking that digitally. Yeah. Nice. You can, a member of the public or business brokers can subscribe to that to get data. And it really has driven our business forward. Just an example of that, he produced a quarterly report recently last year it was taking 6 months to sell the average business in New Zealand. That's more like 5 months at the moment, and that's a reflection of the strong buyer demand out there at the moment.
So 5 months to sell a business?
Yeah.
Is that like average?
That's the average stat, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So essentially, a typical business would have 20 working days for due diligence and finance. That would follow with 10 days for assigning the rights to the lease, and then the business would settle anything from sort of 2 to 4 weeks after the unconditional date, allowing for time for things like employment contracts, trade accounts to be opened, etc.
Because for someone who's wanting to buy a business now, what is on sale? What is on sale right now? What do you see across the sector, industries?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Probably the thing that really stands out to me there at the moment is we're coming out of a recession, and from the outside looking in, a member of the public or people in the business community might assume that it's a buyer's market, and the buyers have got the buyers hold all the cards. The irony is it's a seller's market. There's an undersupply of good businesses, and that's reflected on days on market, reducing at the moment.
Yeah. So it's a buyer's market.
It's a buyer's market, and that makes no
sense.
sense.
Sorry, it's a seller's market.
Sorry,
it's a seller's market.
Correct. It's a seller's market,
yeah.
And that's reflected in the undersupply of business. When we came out of COVID, there was sort of 5,000 businesses on the market at the moment.
Wow.
If we look at the Trade Me stats, that the last 12 months it's fluctuated between 3,200 and 3,400 businesses for sale. But when you drill down and you look at market segments like 1 to 3 million, there's a real strong undersupply of good quality businesses in that sector.
Interesting. So what does that tell us about the way that we're buying and selling? I guess, who's really wanting to sell their business right now? Before I get to the who, I want to understand what sort of businesses are on sale, maybe the things that you're seeing on the ground, because you're apparently, we'll get into a bit about yourself. You're apparently the one who sells the most businesses, and you've been getting some internal awards at your own company. So, well, not your own company, but your company that you work with. So you see a lot of sales, and we've established that it is potentially a good time to sell because there's a lot of demand from people who want to buy. So what are people buying? What sort of businesses are people buying right now that is attractive, profitable, good to buy? Because what is that?
Okay, that's a good question. I mean, one of the sectors that really stands out at the moment is the trades and services sector.
Yeah.
And obviously trades and services tie into construction. Construction's been through a real hard patch. But with that, you'll see the bounce back, and we expect the construction economy to boom in the next few years. So people are trying to get on that early.
Yeah. So what you're saying, there's a boom in this sector?
Yeah, there's a strong demand for trades and services businesses at the moment.
Right.
A couple of things that are driving that is obviously there's the emergence of AI. People are very apprehensive around how AI will impact on future earnings for a business. And so anything that's trade or service based that is going to have minimal disruption by AI, people see that as a safe haven. And people also see upside in those businesses with the change in the economic cycle going into a more prosperous era, hopefully.
So you were saying the trades sector. So what does that mean?
So at the moment, I've sold anything in that sector from plumbing, electrical, turf. I even sold a business earlier in the year that did dam liners for golf ponds across New Zealand.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So plumbing, electrical, those are the type of businesses a lot of them are on sale right now. Well,
I mean, the key for selling a business in that sector is what is the forward work look like on the books? Because the buyer needs to come in and know that they're going to be able to make a profit. So providing the trades or service-based business has a good pipeline of jobs to do in the coming months, and can forecast a profit and loss for the next 12 months in conjunction with the business owner's accountant, that really gives the purchaser the roadmap and the confidence to write the check for that business.
Interesting. So people who are selling their businesses are trades, electrical, plumbing. But if their business is doing really well and they're making money and it's profitable, why would they sell it?
It's interesting. Look, I did a little bit of research on that before coming in today. Of the last 15 transactions that I've done this year, a third of them were baby boomers, and they've just decided that it was the time to exit that business. Another third of them owned multiple businesses.
Right.
So for them, it was a case of, we want more lifestyle, we want to enjoy the batch, or, the boat sat in the garage, I haven't used it for the 12 months, I want to get out with the grandkids and have a bit more work-life balance, if you like. So it was a case of, I'm running 3 businesses, I want to run 2, or I'm running 2, I want to run 1.
Right.
And so that was a third of the transactions that I've done this year.
Yeah.
And then the other third were mostly made up of people who were deciding that it was time for a change of industry. I've just had a client who sold out of pubs in the South Island and entered into that trades and services sector.
From pub to trade and services.
Absolutely.
What?
This guy was awesome. He bought 2 at the same time. He bought an electrical business off me, and he bought a plumbing business off a competitor.
Wow.
At the same time.
Wow. That's crazy to me. Do you know why? Because back in the day when we used to go to university, I don't know how much that's going to change now with AI, but when I've always found it fascinating when people go, I've been trying to get into like law, but I left it and I went to IT.
Yeah. I mean,
that's so different.
Yeah, well, people are more, how would you call it? More transient in their careers or their business ownership these days. And look, I think if you're changing sectors, like going from running an IT company to buying a plumbing company, which I have a client doing at the moment.
Wow.
If the business has good staff, good management, good systems, good client base, the work is more maintenance based and less projects based. That provides for a good transition.
What makes me think about, like, if someone who's done pubbing, they know a lot about hospitality and all that jazz. The plumbing business has way more nuances and expertise. Like, if something goes wrong and if you don't have a plumbing experience, how can you run a business? I mean, this is probably outside of our like buying and selling, but just out of curiosity, like, what do you know about plumbing to own a plumbing or an electrician business and make sure that it runs correctly? Because like, how can you, like, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, this business had strong competition for purchasing it, and one of the things that drove the sale is the business had a general manager in it. Oh, okay. So the technical elements could be taken care of by the general manager. The purchaser, who came from hospitality, was obviously good with people. They were able to focus on client relationships, systems, processes, supporting the general manager, marketing, sales side of the business.
Hello, thanks for watching this video. Quick note, have you subscribed? Over 90% of people who are watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or on Apple are not subscribed or following. Please do so now. It's so simple. The button will be around the screen somewhere. You either hit subscribe or hit the follow button or leave me a review. That will help me so much, helps me grow as a channel and support my work. So I really appreciate it. Okay. Back to the episode. This is interesting. Now, you must have come across a whole bunch of businesses on sale. Well, anything that really stood out for you across your career?
Yeah, I mean, there's been some really interesting transactions. One that comes to mind, before COVID, I had an organic skincare range for sale, and it's not really my area of expertise, but you back yourself to run a good process. I never take it on if I don't think I can get a good result. But I was approached by a corporate guy out of Sydney who owned this organic skincare business. He had too much on his plate in Sydney, and he reached out to me, saw that I'd had some pretty good runs on the board, and said, look, I want you to look at taking this business to the market. They had really good pipeline of selling into a pharmaceutical chain in Asia. So I worked alongside the vendor's accountant to produce a good financial forecast. What was challenging was the vendor was based in Sydney. The raw ingredients were sourced from an organic farm on Great Barrier Island. The product was third-party manufactured in Auckland, and we found a purchaser in Wellington.
Oh, wow.
Crazy thing about that transaction is I never met the buyer. I never met the seller. Everything was done over Zoom, mobile phone, email. There was a chopper ride to Great Barrier Island to see but the buyer and seller did that without me.
Oh, yeah.
The business sold for the full asking price. The buyer's done a great job of scaling that business, saw the potential in it. It's been an amazing journey for the buyer. He's done incredibly well. And, the vendor just knew he didn't have the time to scale it. So I wouldn't recommend that as a process, but it was still, we were still able to achieve all the right things by doing it online.
Okay. So you typically do the things in person?
Look, it's hard to build trust with clients and understand what a good outcome looks like for the buyer and the seller unless you sit around the table and understand what a good outcome looks like for them.
Yeah.
Because you don't understand what's important or things like time frames or managing a client's stress or what's important to them. And it's amazing how often it comes through from a seller that the thing I care about is somebody genuine buys my business who cares about my staff. And a message like that's going to come through way better in person.
Yeah. What other weird businesses that you've sold?
Oh, that's
are they all like traditional, straight, plumbing, electrician, construction, hospitality, of course?
Look, most of the stuff I sell is sort of meat and three veg, trades and services businesses. But it's the people side of it that's important.
Yeah.
I've met the most amazing people. I've just had a business settled 2 days ago where I had an awesome guy had a great career in the police force, really stressful job. I won't go into details, but he was at the dangerous side of policing, if you like.
Oh, okay.
Married with 3 kids.
Yeah.
Wanted that work-life balance changed. Brought a great business in transport and logistics in a rural town in New Zealand. Are
you able to tell us what sort of business he bought?
It was in food distribution.
Ah, okay.
And you can just see that, financially it will set him and his wife and 3 kids up. And,
interesting.
You walk away from that going, that's awesome. And a retiring couple who just wanted to see their business go to a good family and the buyers were just awesome people.
Right, yeah. Interesting, hey? From policing to food distribution.
Well, the interesting thing about people coming out of the police is they've got very good communication skills.
Yeah.
Great systems and processes.
Discipline, of course.
Great discipline.
Yeah.
And a lot of that transfers into business.
Yeah. So, but then it's interesting because those people don't have business acumen.
No, they don't.
Have you found that the people who are buying businesses are non-business people or more like business people who've got the business experience?
So I did a few stats on this earlier in the year for a newsletter that I put out to my customer base. In the first 10 transactions I did this year, 8 went to existing business owners or investors, multi-business owners in a lot of those cases. Only two went to first-time business owners.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So 20% would be for non-business people, and then 80% for business people.
Absolutely. But you know, of the two non-industry or non-business owners of experience, one had very good sales and marketing experience, good sales experience, and that was once again in FMCG transport, and obviously the policeman we just mentioned.
Do you come across businesses that you love to buy yourself?
When I first became a business broker, I used to fall in love with every third business I looked at. But these days, I really love what I do.
Yeah.
I get to provide for my family and have good work-life balance.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm in my early 50s now. I can see this as a career that I see through until I retire. I enjoy it. It's something I'm passionate about. I really like the people side of it. Because
you don't see yourself buying a business? Like, hasn't made you fall in love with business buying and selling yourself?
No, it hasn't. It certainly hasn't put me off, and I would certainly not rule that out. But I also see myself. I'm in business under the umbrella of Kakapo. That, you know, essentially it's a performance-based role. I work like a business owner. I care about the brand I work for like a business owner.
Yeah.
You know, in many ways I have the responsibilities of running a business because, you know, it's a performance-based role.
Have you come across a time when you were like, when a business was on sale? I suppose you wouldn't, because you wouldn't have a business on sale before you ensure that this is a good business. It's a solid one, not dodgy. Because like you have like, how do you make sure that you're selling a good business? Like, do you refuse some people who want to sell their business and go like, I'm sorry, I can't sell your business. Like, I don't think this is going to work.
Absolutely. There's two aspects to that. The first aspect is personality-wise. Are you going to be able to work alongside the business owner? And I have had on occasions where I've declined to take a business to market because I see a personality clash.
Right.
Also, there's if you don't believe in the financial information that you're being provided, you're better off walking away. Your reputation in this industry is so important. I only want to sell a business to somebody if I believe the buyer can make a successful go at it. Yeah. If they're buying a business that I think is marginal or I don't think that they've got the commercial skills to turn that business around, I'll say to the buyer, this isn't for you.
Oh, really? Yeah, I was going to say, like, do you tell the buyer, you want to buy this, but I don't think this is right for you?
Well, if I think that you particularly see this with a first-time business buyer where they're chewing off more than they can handle. I don't want to see...
Sorry, you would say first-time business. Maybe you would say first business.
Yeah, if somebody's buying their business for a business for the first time and they're wanting to...
First time.
They're wanting to perhaps take a bigger growth step than they're ready for. And I see that business has technical skills or they might need substantial business management experience, and I don't think they've got it. I'd rather say, look, this isn't a first-time business. You're better off looking at an alternative option, because if you buy a business and you get it wrong, it's going to set you back 10 years financially.
Wow, really? Wow, that's interesting. Now, a bit about you, I suppose, when you're wanting to find out who Mike Ponsonby is. You've been in this work for how many years?
This is my 10th year of being a broker.
Wow, okay. So a bit of a celebration. So what got you into it?
I was running a company for a lady in St Heliers, and she was a wonderful lady, Kate, and really enjoyed working alongside her. Kate had a dodgy ticker, and it was a stressful industry. And I said to Kate one day, it's time for me to go and do something different. Why don't I sell your business? You go and focus on the charity work that you're passionate about. And so we agreed to sell the business. I managed the process for her. And it was through that I thought, hey, there's a career in this. I've really enjoyed it.
So it came in like accidentally, I suppose, wasn't?
It did. And
You weren't thinking, I'm going to be a broker.
no, and I bumped into James Ashwin at the mall one day, who's my boss, and he was in the process of setting up Kakapo. I was in the process of selling this company. The stars aligned. We had a chat in the car park. The next thing I know, I was working as a broker for James.
If this episode has you wondering whether your company that you're in is actually making use of emerging tech and is on the top of the game, it's time to stop guessing, because AcademyEx has built a 12-week training program for hands-on AI software development. You or your team will learn how these systems work under the hood and build an actual prototype week by week alongside tech experts that are local. So imagine taking that software idea that you've been sitting on and you turn it into a real deployed tool that you can test on customers or pitch to your leadership team. You don't need to become a full-time developer. You just need the fluency to build things yourself or brief an agency properly so it gets things done right. So walk into the next strategy meeting with an actual product, not a shrug. So click the link below or scan the QR code on your screen to learn more about AcademyEx and their course. Application close on the 10th of September. Hello, thanks for watching this video. Quick note, have you subscribed? Over 90% of people who are watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or on Apple are not subscribed or following. Please do so now. It's so simple. The button will be around the screen somewhere. You either hit subscribe or hit the follow button or leave me a review. It will help me so much, helps me grow as a channel and support my work. So I really appreciate it. Okay. Back to the episode. What's your favorite sale, your favorite business that you've ever sold?
To me, it's not necessarily about the actual business. It's more about the people in the business. The part of it that I enjoy the most is where you get a baby boomer and they're retiring and you set up their exit. Like, the biggest asset for most people to set up their retirement is the sale of their business. It sounds a bit boring, but when you're able to structure a process over 3, 4, 5 months to exit that client from the business, set their retirement up. Yep. I phoned somebody in Gisborne yesterday. Their business had settled 2 days ago. They'd just booked a 6-week holiday to Japan.
That's awesome.
And I was just like, hey, I facilitated the process for that to happen.
Yeah.
Not to give myself a pat on the back, but, that's a real buzz moment.
At the biggest sale that you've made?
Look, I don't deal with, 20, 30 million transactions. I deal in the sort of 1 million to 10 million transaction space.
Right.
So the largest business I've got for sale at the moment is 7 million.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'll sort of go down to sort of that 500,000
mark, yeah.
Yeah, I find that that at that level you get a more you get a more professional business process.
Yeah.
And you've got purchasers and sellers who have professional people around them, good financial information, and it's also a good volume market segment.
Yeah. So when it comes to like getting the best bang for your buck for the buyer, but then at the same time, the seller wants to make, there's there's a lot of my question is like who. Okay, we'll have to redo that again. Sorry, editor. Like, you need to cut that out because my train of thoughts. So we talked about how much money you've made, the highest amount of.
How do you get the best outcome for both the buyer and the seller? Maybe.
Yeah, like the margin. Because when you're thinking about a business on sale, the seller wants to get the highest price for it. So it's kind of like thinking about home selling. Some sellers have unrealistic expectations and very weird numbers that they're thinking about, and that's not true. Do you go in and do you value the business for them, or do they come in and going, that's what I want to sell it for? How does that work?
Okay. So once again, it all starts with sitting around the table, face-to-face conversations. So you got to understand where the value is in the business as a starting point, and it's not just the financial information. The team in place, are they experienced? Is there somebody who could step into the owner's role? Who holds the client relationships? Is the business heavily reliant on 2 or 3 big customers? What does the forward work look like? What does the transition of ownership look like? Does the business have a robust lease? Are there any assets up for replacement? There's a lot of variables to consider. And you've got to ask the right questions to uncover where the value in the business represents. But when it comes time to sorting out what the sale price of that business is, I think it's important that the broker has good instincts around what the business would be worth in the marketplace. I think it's really important that the broker backs that up with good sales stats data, and you've got to have transparency with your client around how you've appraised the business. Where I see it goes wrong is the vendor, but like a house sale, has an emotional figure on what the business is worth. If they think it's worth $3 million, you think it's worth $2 million, you're better off shaking their hand and saying, look, it's not for me. I don't think that's a realistic expectation.
Oh, okay.
Where I see it works well is the vendor might say, I need to walk away with $2.5 million. I think it's worth $2 million. The simple conversation is trade for another year, bank another year's profit. It's still going to be worth ballpark $2 million in a year's time, but that way you get the number that you want.
Yeah.
And I think that's a practical way to go about it.
So the businesses that you've sold across the years, over the last 10 years, have you seen businesses sell for more money or less money?
Look, there's no doubt the multiple on earnings is a sliding scale depending on the size of the buyer pool, the confidence in the economy.
And could you please help us understand what is multiples of income? Because that makes...
So when you assess a business's market value, you start with, depending on the size of the business, if it's a smaller business, it's what is the adjusted profits that it makes to a working owner? If it's a bigger business, it's what are the profits if this business was run under management, had a GM in place? So those are the two main valuation models on how you assess the business's value. And then there's a multiple applied to those earnings, and that might be a factor of 2, a factor of 3, a factor of 4,
right? Depending
on the industry, depending on how sustainable those earnings are.
Okay, so in other words, in simpler terms, I don't even remember what my question was.
We're assessing how you value the business.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Restart. So how do you value the business? You look at how much money you're making. You look at your revenue. If you can just break it down for us, like you've got the revenue, you've got your assets, your expenses, your staff, and like if someone now sitting thinking, because like our audiences, some of them are businesses of $1 million plus, and so they might be thinking about selling their business. So how do they value their business in a good way? And also, like I was thinking, the different sectors that you have come across.
So when it comes to valuing the business, as I said before, you start with sitting around the table. I would then ask the right questions. I'd then follow up with an email saying, please supply A, B, C, D, following information. I would then work alongside my PA and put that financial data into a spreadsheet. And so adjustments would be made for like interest costs, personal expenses, what profits the owners are taking as a shareholder's salary.
Yeah.
Would make all those adjustments, would look at it over a 3-year financial period, would look at what the forecast is going to be like for the next 12 months in a lot of instances. And then we would work out, we would look at maybe the most comparable sales that had occurred in that industry over the last, say, 3 years. And
okay.
So a combination of the data, the buyer demand, the financial performance, and the forward work.
Yeah.
You're coming up with a value on that business. And
so you really can't be like, like electrical businesses typically run for this much. Plumbing businesses typically run for this much. A construction business typically run for this much. And a skincare business typically run. It's just so customized and so dependent on each circumstance. You can't really be like, I can't come up to you and say, I have a plumbing business. What do you reckon it could probably sell for?
Yeah, the biggest mistake I see is it's great that vendors will go to 3 brokers and say, can you tell me what my business is worth? Where I see the process fall down very quickly is they go with the broker who promises the highest price. I'd really encourage people when they're selecting a broker is pick the broker who has the best process. At the end of the day, what we do is very, very process driven. Promising a number is easy, but unless you can back it up with a robust process, you really have nothing. So if you're going to tell somebody that it's worth $2.5 million, have a robust process that shows them how you're going to achieve it.
How are you going to get there?
And also how you justified that number based on historical sales that you've made or the industry's made that justified it. You know, look, you could have 2 electrical businesses that make $500,000 profit, but if one of them is maintenance driven and one of them's projects driven, the maintenance one will be worth a whole lot more money than the projects ones. Projects come and go. Maintenance has great reoccurring revenue, but unless the broker understands basic dynamics like that, you're going to get a very, very different appraisal value.
What sort of pattern have you observed having done this for about 10 years now? Like in terms of good transactions, businesses that sell really well, really sell fast. What pattern have you seen with like buying behavior, selling behavior, and all the rest of it?
Yeah, there's some really good lessons for me looking at the data recently. A real strong trend I'm seeing at the moment is when you have a really good business on the market. And I've just had 4 transactions where the first person who sat in the room with the vendor asked the right questions, understood the business, put the business under contract. In all 4 of those instances, those people were experienced business people. They knew what they were after. They'd already engaged a good lawyer, a good accountant, and good banker. They knew what they wanted. And this is where it's tough for a first-time business buyer, is they're dipping their toe in and approaching it cautiously, but then they're coming second to the experienced player who knows what they want. They're happy to work out the finer details and due diligence, but they know it's a good business. They want to get it under contract.
Okay.
And that's a real clear trend in the market at the moment. What I'm also seeing from the buyer's side is with ChatGPT, with the AI side of things, there's a much bigger demand for information up front, and it's not always a good thing.
Oh, really? What sort of information?
Well, you know, buyers are coming up with 50 questions that they'd like answered before they'd consider making an offer, and that list has just come straight out of AI.
Oh, really?
It's not always relevant or helpful. You've got to have a process that aligns a vendor and buyer together.
What questions do you need to have before you buy a business? The key questions, not the ChatGPT stuff. The key stuff that you really must ask before you buy a business.
Well, you got to be careful how top heavy a business is from a family perspective. Like understand how many family members are working in the business and what that role is, and is there a strategy on how you could overcome that?
As in, like, not have family in the business?
Well, you know, if let's say you've got a large construction company and the wife is the general manager of that business, and then the husband's on site running the projects. You sell the business and they both exit.
Yeah.
What have you really bought? You know, an example like that, there's a massive void in that business.
Yeah.
So that's really important to understand. The forward work and the financial forecasting, a monthly profit and loss for 12 months, that is your roadmap as a buyer. That is so important. Understanding who holds the client relationships, so important. Where the business operates, does it have a good secure lease in place? You know, these are all the foundation blocks for getting it right.
Are businesses who are like brick and mortar sell differently to online businesses with no brick and mortar?
Absolutely. So the 2 slowest sectors to recover post-COVID are retail and hospitality.
Yeah.
And so the big things with those businesses is they've got a lot of fixed costs. You know, a retail premises, often your 2 biggest costs are your labour and your the place you operate from. And in many cases, it's hard to change, minimum staffing levels. And, your lease is your lease. So there has been a strong appetite from buyers to stay away from those sectors. People want flexibility. People want lifestyle. People want the ability to work from home some of the time. People want, if the business goes through a tough time, that they have the ability to scale down or scale up. And obviously those two sectors we talked about, some pretty big restrictions around that.
Yeah. So there's more of an interest in... So like the plumbing business isn't really a brick and mortar business.
No, it's interesting. The plumbing business that I'm selling at the moment, they have no fixed premises. The staff take all their vans home. They go straight to their job in the mornings.
Yeah.
It's all about billable hours. If you're paying that plumber 8 hours a day, you want him charging out as close to 8 hours a day as you can. I mean, it's good business. It's great for your overheads. It's great for your margins. It's just good business strategy.
So can someone who's got no plumbing experience and no experience in business can actually go in and buy a plumbing business and actually still succeed?
Yeah, there's you break the trades and services up into two sectors. Like with a plumbing business, if it's maintenance work, a lot of the time there's no compliance. But if you're going in and you're piping out a whole house, you're going to need to provide a producer statement, so it's a document for the council that you're certifying that work's been signed off. So if you're buying that plumbing business and you're doing certifying work, plumbing, gas, drain laying, you're going to need to hire somebody who can certify all the work and oversee that it's been done to a standard. So there's a lot of trades and services sectors where there's not that level of compliance. Like I'm selling a large turf installer at the moment. There's not a council compliance paperwork that's been signed off on that. So there's no doubt there's more demand for trades and services where there's not certification. But if the business still makes good money and you can afford to pay an employee to do the certification, it's still a good business model.
What about getting the most out of your business sale and getting the price that it deserves? You might have touched on that a little bit, but what's the step-by-step system to get the price that you want? Well,
it all starts with gathering good information at the start, putting it into a good information memorandum. Often the broker won't get to sell to the banker, accountant, and lawyer who act for the purchaser. So that information memorandum needs to do that for you. The second thing is
it like about SOPs or processes?
Look, I mean, if you're looking at it from an appraisal perspective, the more your business's documentation around things like SOPs is fantastic. I sold a large electrical business at the start of the year. All their processes were documented. So when the buyer came in, if the vendor wasn't there post the handover period and they had a tricky situation, there was a process to refer to on how that would be worked through and dealt with. That's something that a buyer takes confidence out of, and it's something that a buyer is prepared to pay for. The buyer's also looking at things like reoccurring revenue. Is the business growing? Are the profits sustainable and consistent?
Yeah. Very interested to find out from you about your dodgy, curly business deals. Someone who tried to get their business sold, get it over the line, and they've done really dodgy things, or even things that you have heard that have been really off and do not do this.
It's a really interesting question. Look, I mean, for me as a business broker, you only have one reputation. If you are reviewing financial information and you don't think it's authentic, that's me finding the door as quick as I can. The really interesting way to spot dodgy financial information is you're looking across 3 years of financial data. If it's just too consistent to be true, that's a major red flag. If the GP is 33.7% 3 years in a row, there's a bit of cut and paste in play there. A very nervous broker who's just saying, hey, look, thanks for the opportunity, but it's not for me.
Hello, thanks for watching this video. Quick note, have you subscribed? Over 90% of people who are watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or on Apple are not subscribed or following. Please do so now. It's so simple. The button will be around the screen somewhere. You either hit subscribe or hit the follow button or leave me a review. It will help me so much, helps me grow as a channel and support my work. So I really appreciate it. Okay. Back to the episode. Okay. Can you tell us some moments and deals that you almost put on sale and you thought, oh no, there's something is off, feeling off, and you had to like follow your gut and then you said no to, or maybe even you went with it and it was actually dodgy?
Look, if it's dodgy, I'm out of there as fast as I can. Look.
Or maybe stuff that other people that you've heard of, like, you know, when you're having a beer in a pub and go, oh yeah, I had this really horrible like sale the other day and they tried to do that and that and that. Like it didn't work.
Mm-hmm. Look, I have seen one instance where a key staff member set up in competition to the owner, and there was no way I was going to have any visibility of that during the sale. But it was a large engineering firm where the purchaser bought the business in good faith, the vendor sold it to the purchaser in good faith, the head engineer within that business decided that was his opportunity to then exit the business. That did put the business owner under a lot of pressure.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if you deal with good people and good businesses, you seldom see that sort of thing. But
then that engineer who left, he left after the sale.
Yeah.
Why did he leave?
I don't know. In this instance, there was no visibility during the process that it happened. But certainly the first 6 months in business ownership, it's mission critical that a buyer gets off to a good start. The number one thing that I see people underestimate in buying a business is you've got to do your due diligence on the owner. If something goes wrong, are they a stand-up person and will support you?
How do you do a due diligence on the seller himself?
Well, I guess there's
or
two
herself.
There's two aspects to that. Is you got to get in the room with them and you got to ask them the right questions. You know, before you make an offer, ask them what does an ideal handover look like for you. The moment you've got a vendor saying to you things like, "I really care about my staff. I want somebody who buys my business to look after my staff. It's really important that it's settled when everyone's still got a job."
Oh, okay.
I mean, to me, that's a person who's, you know, a very genuine, caring person, cares about the outcome of the purchaser, cares about it. If they care about their staff, they're going to care about the person who buys the business because they want that staff to continue to be able to pay their mortgages and feed their families.
What's a good transition? And when you're talking about transition and you're taking care of staff, what does that really look like on the ground?
So like a restraint of trade and a vendor assistance period are negotiated as part of the sale and purchase agreement. It really comes down to the level of knowledge that the purchaser brings to the table. If they're a first-time business owner, well, maybe the vendor needs to hold their hand for 3 months, not 1 month. If there's technical elements to that business, maybe it needs to be even longer. Sometimes you get a really experienced business person who go, I don't want the staff thinking there's two bosses in the building.
Oh, okay.
Let's get the handover done as quick as we can. I want staff coming to me for guidance or clarifying issues. Having the owner still there can muddy the waters. So it's very much a case-by-case basis. But for a first-time business owner, you want that exiting vendor in that business for as long as you can. And sometimes it's a little bit of a horse trade. Well, I don't need you full-time, but can I have you for a longer period? Hey, after 6 months, are you still available for phone calls or emails if anything tricky comes up? There's lots of ways to structure it. But I think it's something that's really important that a first-time business buyer needs to think about.
Okay, so this is kind of like what you meant by like transition and having support. And I suppose when the owner who's selling remains at hand trying to help, they still getting paid, or is that something that they do like for free, or like how does that work?
Okay, good question. So the first thing is in an average like if you're buying a business for $1 million, let's call that an average size transaction. You might expect the owner to be there for 1 month, and that's not a chargeable expense. So the job of the owner is to transfer the knowledge, introduce the clients, give a good staff transition, meet the clients, meet all the suppliers. So those are all. So it's the teaching, not the doing.
Yeah.
So typically you'd cover that off in a month, and that's not a chargeable cost. If you want the vendor to be in the business for a longer period, it's fair and reasonable that that's chargeable, or it can be built into the purchase price.
And what do you need to do when you just bought a business or thinking about buying a business and this business has staff? What do you need to do to have a really good transition and that the staff are operating, doing what they need to do? There's no disruption, let's say.
The biggest mistake I see a buyer make is the moment the vendor tells the staff that he or she has sold the business, the purchaser needs to have the opportunity to meet with the staff as close to the time. As soon as they've been notified, maybe the following day. If they're told at 5 o'clock on a Monday, the purchaser needs to be in there 5 o'clock on a Tuesday saying, hey, I'm going to be taking over the business. It's business as usual. Nothing's going to change. It's just a different person writing the check. Everyone's going to have a job. Nothing's going to change. I care about my staff. I welcome the opportunity to sit down one-on-one with all of you and give you the opportunity to get to know me.
That's awesome. That's good. And so you are saying like you need a little bit more of a reassurance and humanity and it's going to be okay.
Well, I sold a business in Northland last year. The owner told the staff, the purchaser was Auckland-based. It took them a week before they met with the staff. During that week, one person took a job elsewhere.
Oh, wow.
And so, that can be a big setback for a purchaser, and that can be avoided by
losing talent, meaning like you're losing talent.
Losing talent, having to recruit that, losing that experience. But that, in most instances, that can be avoided with good communication and getting in front of them soon. Yeah,
that's cool. I'm sure there's people have made way more mistakes when buying and selling, and you've covered on that. Is there anything else that people make in terms of buying and selling that people should not do?
The most important aspect of selling a business is the due diligence period. So there's a conditional contract in place, and then the purchaser is working through that. They're verifying that all the financial information is correct, that the health and safety, that the forward work, that the lease is robust. They're ticking all the boxes that what they're intend to pay for is correct.
Yeah.
And so from a vendor's perspective, the moment you enter into due diligence, you should have most of that information ready to go. From a purchaser's perspective, when you enter into a contract to do your due diligence, you should have a good banker, lawyer, and accountant ready to go. The lawyer and accountant should be providing you a due diligence list of what you require, and then being efficient with working through that information in a expedient time period is really critical, because a bad turnaround on information is a deal killer.
Yeah.
From the broker's perspective in due diligence, good communication, being a good problem solver, transparency with the information, and making sure the information's been worked through in a timely period is the number one thing.
Yeah, very interesting, isn't it? I suppose another pattern question is like, have you seen an increase? Well, probably we've looked at this earlier, but you're seeing more sales this year, let's say like 2026 versus 2025 and 2024, the last 3 years. And what do you actually even expect sales to look like, number of businesses on sale to look like in the next 3 years?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, if we look at it from a data perspective, 2025 was a really good year as a business broker. 2026, I think it's like a once in a decade year.
Oh, really? Wow.
The transactions I've done in 2020 in 6 months of 2026 were the equivalent of what I did in 2025.
What about 24 and
24 was once again a solid year.
Oh.
The buyer demand has been exceptional for the last 3 years. Will that continue? I don't know. I expect that at some point the supply will increase and that will create more of a balanced market. But, you just don't know.
Do you think it's just the baby boomers just going and like retiring and that's why there's an increase and at some point that's going to level off?
It's interesting. Ever since I've been a business broker, whether it's within the industry or external of the industry, there's always been this big talk of the baby boomer sell-off.
Is it true or like? What
look, I think it's more of a trickle than a river of businesses selling off. I mean, you got two schools of thoughts with baby boomers at the moment. So some people are going, I've made enough money, I want to exit. And then you've got others who are saying, you know what, I've had 2 or 3 tough years. I want to hang in for another 2 or 3 years until I'm comfortable with what I've got to retire. So it's not like they're all turning 65 and putting their business on the market. You know, I've got clients who are in their 70s still running great businesses, amazing business people who've got no interest in retiring. I mean, the conversation's happening. It'll happen at some point, but there's certainly no rush.
Yeah. How do you find the people who want to buy the business?
Most of it's referral. It's word of mouth.
Oh, okay.
If you do the right thing, you treat people fairly, you just seem to have people knock on your door and say, hey, you sold my mate's business.
Okay.
I've heard you're a good operator. Can you come and have a chat?
Oh, okay. And is that the same way as people like, so this is when sellers.
That's from sellers approaching me.
Sellers. So how do you find the buyers?
A lot of the buyers come off the marketing. I mean, we have a database of buyers, and that's great.
Oh,
but
wow, do you? How big is your database?
Oh, look, it's about 3,000. But
so 3,000 people who are actively now looking to buy a business.
Have actively looked for a business over the last few years.
Okay.
But keep in mind, if they're on a database, most of them haven't bought a business and are still mulling it over. The best buyers come off the advertising. And if you want the best price for your business, it needs to be sold on an open market where there's competition. Selling it discreetly off market to a database buyer, I think you risk leaving money on the table.
I want to touch on the life side of things and how you operate as a business owner. Before we were filming, I was telling you about how I was feeling about LinkedIn and I wasn't posting, and I'll get to why I'm talking about that in a minute. But why am I not posting? And I haven't felt really inspired, and also actually don't have even time to post. Not a lot of time to go out and do stuff with other business owners or even just meet people. And I discovered that because I've been too busy, and balancing being too busy with going out and doing your normal networking. What is your wisdom on that? How do you, if you're really busy and you've got lots of deals on the table and you need to pay attention to those deals, but at the same time, you still need to be out and about. Like as a business owner, you need people to know who you are. You need to get in front of new people. How do you do it?
It's a really good question, and you've got to be a good time manager in our game. But I think the more laps of the sun you've done, the better you get at time managing, and the better you get at understanding that it's not just about the short-term sale; it's also about the long-term play of building a business or building a brand.
Perfectly, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, exactly. So how do you like what have you learned? What sort of ways that you've done to do that? Like what sort of wisdom can you give me?
So I guess there's a couple of aspects to it. Is to me, you focus on what you're good at, and I love the people side of the business. I'm lucky enough that my wife's come into the business that I work in.
Awesome.
So my wife works alongside me 4 days a week. She's amazing at pulling together the due diligence side of the sale. Anything that's written or a legal contract, she takes the lead on. Anything from a marketing perspective, she takes the lead on. If it requires really good detail, like reading a large contract, my wife takes the lead on it. She has the same qualification that I do. And then I prefer the people side. I'm the guy who gets on the plane and goes to Christchurch at 5 o'clock in the morning, does the meeting, gets home at 8 o'clock at night.
Oh, yeah.
But I love the people side of it.
Yeah.
And so it's, for us, it's very much divide and conquer. And outsourcing some of the things that may not get done.
Right.
Like marketing or social media.
Before you had your wife with you and people doing other bits and pieces, maybe earlier in your career, how did you tackle that specific challenge of finding time to do the work, but also have to still be out there and like talking to people?
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson that came out of it is if you want to scale your business, you know, you've got to have more resource. If you have the same amount of resource, you're never going to be able to scale. And so I guess your performance and your income becomes quite lumpy if it's just one man in a ute driving around the North Island chatting with clients and doing deals.
What mindset did you have to get that balance and, you know, still needing to like sometimes take time off and be like, because, you know, if you're not feeling inspired, you need to take time off. But like, what was your mindset when you were like, this is what I need to be thinking about, therefore this is what I need to do to grow, to scale as well?
Yeah, there's a couple of aspects to that. I mean, for me, it's people first. Like, if you just look at it as one deal at a time, one client at a time, treat them respectfully, think about what a good outcome is for them. To me, the rest just takes care of itself. If you've built a business based around a referral network where you achieve a good outcome for the buyer and the seller, they both walk away going, I'm really happy with the way this has come together. They're both down the rugby club having a chat saying, I've sold my business. Who sold it? Oh, Mike Ponsonby did. Really happy with the outcome. Can you give me his contact details? That's how I've built my network. That's how I've built my business.
Yeah.
And so people first mindset's been really important. And I'm lucky I work for a company that's got great leadership. James is pretty good at pulling me up saying, you know, you need to do some stuff on the marketing side of the business, or your pipeline of listings coming up is, look, you've had a great run, but your pipeline of listings is starting to get a bit light. I want you to be thinking about the next quarter and where your business is going to come from in the next quarter. So I'm blessed with having my wife at home who's across my business, and then I've got a boss who leaves me to do what I want to do. But if he thinks he can add some value and keep me on track, you know, it's more than welcome.
Yeah, cool. Any advice for business owners out there who feeling maybe burnt out, maybe tired, maybe excited? I don't know, maybe not excited, but like people who are like, need a bit of a pick me up. What would you give them?
Yeah, there's a couple of aspects to that. I mean, specifically to my industry, the number of business owners who have a bad day and then pick up the phone and go, oh, you know, the staff member's rung in sick. I've had a guts full. I want you to sell my business. I encourage people to get away from that mindset. You got to talk to the broker 6 months out, plan for it, you know, have the conversation with the broker 2 years out. You got to be thinking about your capital expenditure, your personal expenses, to set the business up for sale, good, clean financial information. You know, if you go and buy $100,000 truck tomorrow, does that mean your business is going to be worth $100,000 more? You know, in some cases, not necessarily. So, you know, get advice early, start the conversation early. And from a business owner's perspective, you know, business has been tough. You know, you can't sugarcoat that. But I'm amazed by the resilience that New Zealand business owners show. They're the backbone of New Zealand.
What do you mean by resilience? What have you seen?
Well, you know, if you look at a truck driving company, you know, you started the year and diesel was $1.60 a litre. You know, when I came into work this morning, it's $2.80 a litre. Yeah. If you've entered into a contract to do something, and I've got a large earthworks company for sale at the moment. He's priced work 12 months in advance. He priced it on diesel being $1.60, not $2.80. you've got machines out there burning hundreds, if not thousands, of litres of diesel a day. That's a massive extra cost that they've got to wear.
Yeah.
That takes resilience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It's good to have you, Mike.
Thank you. It's been great.
Thanks for coming. It's been really enlightening. And thank you for giving me all your trade secrets. If people want to find out more about you and your work, where can they go and do that?
Just put Kakapo Business Sales into Google and I'm sure you'll find me.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. It's good to have you, and all the best for your work.
Thank you.